Welcome back to the Nebraskabilities podcast. I am your host, Andy, this week, joined by my co-hosts, Zach and Nate, here to discuss our first victory of the year. The first one under Matt Rule that we all assumed last week that this is a game that you are supposed to win and go in and win, and Nebraska came in, took care of business on both sides of the ball, despite a lot of unknowns of what the offense was going to look like, who was going to start at QB, all of that. And it's nice just to get the first win of the Matt Rule era under our belts, out of the way. That way the team can move forward, start, what we've heard all along is start to lose that losing mentality, that losing culture that we're just so accustomed to the past 3 to 4 years under Coach Frost and the players that are still left over from that regime. So nice to see a win. Nice to see, first home crowd victory for Matt Rule, just to get everything that all squared away. After just a couple, as we found out later, just sad little notes of what is going to impact the offense definitely going forward in the future is, if you haven't heard by now, two of Nebraska's starting running backs, well, I guess co-starting running backs, I should say, are done for the season with a shoulder injury for Ramir Johnson, who Coach Rule said that he was going to have surgery at some point this week. And then for Gabe Ervin, who dislocated his hip and is also going to have surgery sometime this week, according to Coach Rule. So two big blows to the running back room after we saw them run so effectively Saturday and establish the run game, get that going. And now, once you finally have some inkling of what the offense is going to look like going forward, Nebraska gets two brutal blows simultaneously right after the game that we had no idea about. Certainly being at the game, it's a lot harder to get that information of, you don't really necessarily see what the broadcast tells you of who isn't in there anymore. Are there injuries on the sideline that we can't see being at the game? And it wasn't only through looking through Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, that after halftime they said Ramirez in street clothes at that point, but Gabe was still playing. And then, Saturday night after the game, Gabe said, I had a small little injury, but I'm fine. And then Coach Rule says on Monday, is like, oh, he's done for the year with a dislocated hip. So we'll discuss that more going forward, just what the offense is going to look like now for the running back room, because just looking at the roster right now, I mean, you have Anthony Grant, that's pretty much a left of your experienced running backs, and you have a bunch of sophomore and freshman running backs that are going to have to step up that Coach Rule said. So we'll dive into that later, but just a couple quick initial thoughts there. I thought the offense looked great during the game. Just something that I think the team needed, what the fans needed to see, was an offense that was able to start at their own 25 and able to sustain long drives, get first downs, finally punching it at the end zone. Saw that a lot on Saturday, which was very pleasing to see. And then the defense just continues to amaze me of just how much better they are tackling this year, tackling in open space. The thing that I most commonly saw and heard after the game was, you had one guy wrap up, and then all of a sudden you would see two or three other red shirt players just come in and fly out of nowhere. And it's like they all just swarm to the ball, and that's just a credit to Tony White and the whole defensive coaching staff. It's just their ability to be able to coach that and teach that to those players is not something that we're so accustomed to and so used to. And, obviously the defense is going to have a tough test coming up in a couple of weeks when Michigan comes into town. But for now, I think at least the first string starting defense, held Northern Illinois under 100 yards. And I can't remember the last time that we can confidently say that, as a defense, to hold a team under 100 yards altogether has happened I'm sure it's happened in my lifetime. I just don't remember the last time it's ever happened. But we'll pass it to Nate there. Just your initial thoughts there, and then we can start diving into what we liked about the game.
Yeah, no, as a person, I believe I predicted 21-17 for a final score, somewhat closer to lower scoring. I was really pleasantly surprised with how the offense operated. It was just generally, it was efficient. Harburg was passing the ball around, had 14 for 24, nothing, to write home about, but he got the ball where it needed to go for the most part, and we only had the one fumble. It wasn't hard to really pin it on him. Offensive line kind of broke down a bit there, but other than that, it was a pretty flawless execution offensively, I'd say. Definitely some question marks going forward with what the running back room is going to look like, what the quarterback room is going to look like as well, with Jeff Sims at least getting some practice in. I believe he's still at least having some struggles with running the ball, is kind of the latest reports. But he'll probably at least be in a candidate for starting quarterback this Saturday. We'll see how things progress. But I mean, Matt Rule believes in the two guys, and we'll just have to kind of trust that Matt Rule knows what he's doing on that one. So, but still, the defense, as you mentioned, balled out. I think the only thing we were really missing is, a score on defense is really the only thing we haven't seen from them. But just about every other phase, it's been a joy to see. And like I said, we knew it was going to be our stronger side of the ball going into the season, and they've pleasantly surprised me. I remember first episode, I was a little weary, a little scared to see what our tackling was going to look like. But they've, as you said, there've been a lot of good open field tackles. Everyone's rushing to the ball and doing their job, and it's been awesome to see that defensive unit is second in the country for like rushing yards allowed. So
yeah, I'll have to look at stat up that. We'll run with it for now.
Yeah.
Or at least top 5. At least top 5. So
regardless, they're crushing it. It's great to see.
They are number 2 in the country, only behind Air Force by like 4 yards.
Okay. Yeah, we'll take it. I mean, they're fun to watch.
Time to take that crown next week.
We definitely have the opportunity to with Louisiana Tech coming to town. Then another. But still, with Northern Illinois, it was a game that, by all accounts, we were supposed to win, and we came in, took care of business at home. It was closer in the first half, but it never felt really out of reach. We were talking before we started. The fumble was a little scary. That point in the game, we were only up 7-0. It's like, what's going to happen with this? But then it was a consistent game, and I was really happy by what I saw. I'll go ahead and just leave it there and pass it over to you, Zach.
I don't have much more to add. I mean, outside of diving into the offense going from here, but I will say, you hit on it, Nate. It was nice that we came into a game that by all intents and purposes we were supposed to win, and we did just that. Not much more else to really be said. It did take a little bit for it to get going. I wouldn't say concerned necessarily, but I was kind of surprised that it took at least a half before it seemed like our offense really started warming up. But my assumption, if I had to make any, was that they were running pretty vanilla. It seemed like they were running a pretty vanilla offense to help with Harburg just get his bearings, as well as I think that was part of it too. Is that's the first. I don't know I don't remember if he'd started any last year when Casey got hurt or anything, but regardless, he if this was his first start, I think, or he was starting for the first home game of the year, had to have some nerves. So I mean, I think a lot of it can be explained, and I think now I think the big question mark is who's the quarterback going forward and we won't know until we are officially told. But I think a lot of people are now on the Harburg train and want him to be the starter. And I know we were talking before we started, but something that really surprised me with him was just how poised he looked for, in the situation he was in. And I understand like Northern Illinois might not be the greatest example of competition, but to me, the fact that he was still able to do it with some slip ups here and there, it gave me at least a little bit of confidence that even if now the experiment is we ride with Jeff Sims until he messes up, and then Harburg comes in as a more steady option or whatever, if they're putting Jeff Sims on a short leash, we don't know. But to me, if that's what happens and Jeff Sims starts, this against Louisiana Tech to try and maybe regain some of that confidence that he might have lost. I could certainly see it being a short leash situation, but I suppose we've already kind of got started, so I'll pass it over to Andy to get us going with the offense.
We'll just free flowing discussion here on just some basic numbers just to break down right now. Offense 382 yards total, 158 on passing, 224 rushing on the ground there. It's what we were kind of texting during the game is I think that we will kind of start and coin the term for Heinrich's new nickname now. So instead of Harburg, it will be now Heinrich Himberg. Because he is him now.
He is him.
Until proven otherwise. So just like how we had Anthony Grant last year, which is gonna have to happen again now this year. No one.
To his credit, though, he did have a good game here.
Yeah.
I think redemption did happen.
Yes,
with this
and
game.
he had a nice truck stick moment. Sometime I think it was in the third quarter where he kind of got up and looked over the dude, and I remember sitting in the stadium. I was like, "Oh, please back away before you get that taunting flag because they'll throw it." But yeah, Heinrich earned himself a new nickname. So going forward until proven otherwise, it will be Heinrich Himberg. But, he led the team in rushing. He had 21 attempts on the ground there, which, again, we can discuss as going forward. Don't know how sustainable and how viable that is now, considering, it also might have to now considering your running back room is thin. You're relying on, freshmen and sophomores to step up with just Anthony Grant left. But Rule said it was either Saturday or Monday at his press conferences, we have two quarterbacks that we know can win, and that's just Rule's installation that he still trusts him to win the game. Now, granted, we haven't seen him physically win a game yet, so I'm still a little, iffy on if that can actually happen. But we can see that Heinrich has the ability to lead the offense, like Zach said. Just, they threw up a very vanilla plain offense for him to run. And I think hopefully the coaches, I love that he is like a hard runner. He's going to go in, truck some dudes over, which is all fine. But knowing Nebraska's history of just injured quarterbacks and then the entire offense goes out the window the minute your main quarterback gets hurt, like to see him slide, just protect himself a little bit. Just knowing that you just, again, we still have a little bit to see from Jeff Sims of if we can really trust him run the offense or not. And I think that's going to be the biggest question for Saturday now is if Sims is healthy, does Rule start him? And part of me, is leaning towards that he will probably still start him because the overall picture is Rule picks Sims to be that guy to come here in Nebraska and be his quarterback. So the fact that Rule, even after one game of Heinrich, still might lean with Sims just kind of tells me that Rule is still going to prefer Sims to lead his offense as his quarterback because that's who he picked to come here and be the quarterback here in Nebraska. So certainly, like Zach said, if Sims does start Saturday, he's going to have a very short leash if a mistake is made or a fumble, interception, all of that. Knowing now that we have at least we know we're going to get of Heinrich when he comes in is what that second string is going to come in and bring you now. Whereas before, like last year when Casey got hurt, then Chuba comes in, you're like, you have no idea what you're going to get out of Chuba Purdy when he comes into the game. Now, if that happens with Sims again, like that your backup is going to be able to come in and kind of manage the offense because we've seen it happen in a live game time now. Obviously, you take into the account that Jeff Sims played against Minnesota and Colorado versus Northern Illinois with Heinrich. So, again, that's, you're trying to nitpick at that point of who is the better quarterback in that situation. Now, if Heinrich played those two games versus Sims playing this game, we'd probably be having a different discussion as well of who was the better quarterback. But that's right now. I don't know what Rule is going to do. Again, my gut feeling is if Sims is healthy, he will probably start Saturday. Much to the chagrin of the fan base and all of us, you're probably going to hear some boo Saturday if that does announce to get and happen too. But I think from an overall confidence mental standpoint for Sims, he needs a game like Saturday with Heinrich to get his talent, get his mental conscience, get back on track of the quarterback that we saw in fall camp. And that's also another thing I go back to is there's no way that Sims would have started if he would have done those mistakes in fall camp. Like, there's just absolutely no way, unless Rule was BSing us the entire time, that those things are happening in fall camp and he was trying to cover them up. So a part of me is like, something happened in the Minnesota game that kind of just made Sims not curl up into a ball in sense, but just kind of like made him more conservative, made him so drawn back that he's like overthinking all these decisions now, and he's making more mistakes because of it. So that's where I lean right now. Is I have a weird feeling that Sims will play Saturday, just in terms of what Rule has instilled and wanted out of this offense the entire time. But for now, I mean, we know what we get with Himberg. We know that he is capable of running, passing, managing the game, and being effective at it as well. Like Nate said, the fumble, not really on him. Just a missed block from Bryce Benhart that he got leveled in. Those blindside hits. I mean, unless you can sense this as a quarterback, you're obviously not going to see that coming. So.
You're telling me we don't have Spider-Man as a quarterback?
Unless he is hiding something that we don't know about, I don't think so.
Well, I tell you what, I don't know how Spidey sense works entirely. Obviously, I'm not Spider-Man, but I would think that would be able to be hidden, as a football player. Just maybe the helmet blocks his Spidey sense. Who knows?
Right, and that's Heinrich did a great job managing that game, passing, running, all of that. And that kind of leads us into what we're going into with the running back in the receiving core. And it's like we had said before, it's so disappointing, and it's heartbreaking just to see those injuries happen to those guys, especially when Gabe had a fantastic game. I think just running the ball. I mean, he hit his holes, he played hard, he did everything, and it's so disheartening and heartbreaking to see him be done for the season already, just off an injury like that. And it's Rule said it's Anthony's team now in terms of running back. I should say that he's gonna have to step up, and he's gonna have to hopefully put away that mistake he made at Minnesota and not let it come back to haunt him. And we saw what Anthony did last year. We know he is capable of making those runs, making those plays. But, is he, now that he is the main guy, is he able to block out what happened at Minnesota with that fumble and continue it going forward with leading the running back room now and trying to be the veteran bell cow that we need him to be now, because we don't know what we are getting with our backup running backs until we see them anymore. With that, I'll open up to you two. Thoughts on quarterback, receivers. Fedoni is having more of a come out party now that I think we're all thankful to see that we're actually getting our tight ends involved, which I think I said in the beginning of the preseason, I think the one thing that we underutilized under Scott was the tight end room. And now that we know what Fedoni is working his way and getting a lot better with that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
100% agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd say everything that I've been seeing, hearing, all lean toward, like you said, Jeff Sims probably starting if he's healthy to go. I go back and forth on it because, like you mentioned, it's Rule's handpicked guy. You want him to succeed. Obviously, you want to give him as much confidence as you can get. He had 2 rough games, but they were 2 better opponents than Northern Illinois. And so giving him kind of that tune-up game against what should be another theoretically winnable game against Louisiana Tech here, just to build that confidence, get his kind of feet back under him, could be big going into Michigan for the week after. But he's also proven that the moment has been a little bit big for him.
Yep.
And that's just, I don't know, that's what it looks like to me, is more of Jeff Sims. He's got the athletic talent, he's got the ability, it's just he seems to be doubting himself, and that's kind of, I don't know, I feel like he's been going wrong. It's just whether it's the reads, whether it's not paying attention when you're getting a snap because you're too scared that your offensive line's not going to block for you. Like it's just he's not trusting his team right now, and who knows? Maybe he just needs a tune-up game against Louisiana Tech to really, like I said, just get his feet under him and right the ship again. I will support whatever decision Rule decides to make. I think we at this point kind of have to, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Even I don't know if you'd want to do like just a 50-50 split, have Jeff play the first half, Himberg play the second half. I don't know, 60-40, maybe even just try to do. I know some teams have had success with two quarterbacks. Use Harburg as kind of that decoy. I mean, we know he can be a receiver, he can play running back, whatever. So he's
and it's very possible with the thin running back room that we have now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a very real possibility, like you said, Nate, with that decoy that you throw Sims and Himberg out there, and it could be a run for either one of them. It could be a decoy, it could be whatever. Just because you could have the quarterback, you could have Grant on one side, the other quarterback on the other side, and see what happens. Like, who knows if that's too much trickery, but you throw off future opponents because one, they know that you don't have running back depth room, but you don't know which quarterback's going to take the ball, if they're going to take it and run, take it and throw. Who knows?
Yeah, it could definitely open up the playbook, and I don't know. To me, it's a feasible option, at least. At this point, I think we have to just kind of try everything, get as creative as we can with losing our two running backs there. But again, that is a little above my pay grade, so I'll let Rule make those decisions. I think it would be exciting. People would really like to see Harburg continue getting playing time. I think a lot of people would say that he definitely earned his keep, and deserves as much playing time as we can get him. So, and he's a good runner, passionate guy. I watched his interviews after the game, and he was just excited to be in there and helping the team. And so that's really cool to see, kind of that homegrown talent doing his own thing. But to your point, Andy, 21 carries is a lot, and that
quite a lot when you're not a running back.
Yep. That scares me because just looking at like Adrian, he was fantastic, his freshman year until he got injured running the ball, and never quite seemed the same after that. So would hate to see a repeat, of that again. So we'll have to see. I don't know. Every player is different. Yeah, could be some dangerous territory. But yeah, and that Fedoni was great. It's glad to see we're getting him the ball, for trying to feed him as much as we can. Marcus Washington made a couple plays. Sure hands Billy Kemp needs to work on those not so sure hands. But
he also needs to probably be about 5 inches taller.
Yeah, that's fair. He did mention, I think, he would be willing to play running back. I thought I saw him on Twitter somewhere.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
But yeah, it's about all I've got for the offense. It was nice to see them moving the ball, and like said, Zach, it was a little slow in the beginning, but they were just kind of cruising a bit, and then they kind of found the rhythm in the second half, and it was good to see it. I don't know, competently ran, and I'll just kind of leave it at that and pass it over to you, Zach.
I don't have too much else to add, really. I guess if we got to point out any negatives, I guess my only negative really would be that the offensive line still seems to be somewhat shaky. I guess if we're being nice, there were quite a few times, including the fumble, which I know we've talked about, but there were just quite a few times where it just I don't know about half, but quite a few of the 21 carries that Himberg. It's going to take a while to get used to saying that. For him though, you'd see the pocket collapse right away, and he'd have to just run it. Which, two ways to look at it. It's a good thing that he was able to make such a snap decision and was able to, at least make positive yardage out of it, even if it was only 3 or 4 yards. That helps. Now, granted, there were a couple times, obviously, that he went back, in reverse, which is not what you want. But again, I find it hard to blame Heinrich for that, because the offensive line, as much as I've said even that they've seen improvement this year, I still maintain that I think they're probably the weakest unit on the team. And I don't know. I don't think at this point, I don't want to necessarily say that it's a coaching thing. I think it's just a personnel thing. I think we just need new blood in there to really embolden that line. But I don't know. That's me taking a guess. But outside of that, the offense, I was really glad to see that, like you guys said, we were able to move the ball. We were able to, for the most part, do what we needed to do. Yeah, I mean, we didn't score on every drive, and there were quite a few drives there in the second and third quarter. It seemed like where it's like, are we sure we know what we're doing? Like, we were up 14-3 for what felt like forever, and then finally it seemed like we've put our foot on the gas, which I guess might be to Rule's point where games are won in the fourth quarter, and that's when the team won the fourth quarter. Like, I guess that 100% really matches up with how Rule wants to play the game, which is, slow it down. And, maybe we're overanalyzing that too. Maybe that's what he wanted to happen. And I know we keep belaboring the point of, it's just Northern Illinois, but if you look back to last year, we gave up, what was it, like 700 yards or something to Georgia Southern. And, the infamous game that got Scott Frost fired. I mean, and I know that's more of a defensive point, but to the idea, we're looking at a totally different team that is able to play 4 quarters. And so at this point, no game is a gimme, including Louisiana Tech, even though we are a 21-point favorite as of right now. No game's a gimme. And so going back and forth, it was nice to see that both sides of the ball, or all facets of the ball, or all facets of the team, were able to do what they need to do to win. And again, I know we all said this already, but it was nice that we were able to just take care of what needed to be taken care of. And it was nice to see that. Like, I've been rooting on Fedoni since we got him. Since he came to Nebraska, I've been wanting him to pop off, and it's nice to see him finally doing that. And Marcus Washington came in clutch on a couple catches. Alex Bullock, I mean, I don't know where he's coming from, but he only had 1 catch in the game, but it was for 33 yards.
It was screenplay that got flagged 15 because our lineman was stupid enough to come up and hit a guy after the whistle, but it's fine.
That was the other thing. This isn't necessarily offense specific, but I was kind of surprised that we only had, was it 5 or 6 penalties? That's still quite a bit, but we've already
a lot of them were personal fouls.
Yeah, and they were personal fouls.
They were those 15-yarders.
And so, I mean, at one point I remember they had the graphics showing how many penalties each team had, and we had 5 for 70 yards, which that is bad. But the fact that we only had 5 penalties, and they were not like the mental mistake type stuff, or at least maybe most of them weren't, that was nice to see. Like, generally speaking, in the first 2 games, we saw false start, offside, stuff like that, it needs to be cleaned up, but it was nice to see that it seemed like we're getting closer to cleaning that up. Now, the personal fouls I could do without. But
I mean, same.
Outside of offense, I don't know if there was really a whole lot else to talk about, because the defense did their thing.
Showed up.
I mean, Tony White clearly has an idea of what he's doing for the defense, and is very clearly, I think, one of the top coaches on the team. Very obviously. I really don't have anything else to say other than, and I know it's been mentioned by one of you two already, but it was nice to see that every time the ball moved somewhere, there were at least 2 guys on the ball every time. At least 2, if not 3 or 4 every time. The defense is playing very well. And might still be a bit early. It's not quite 2009 levels yet.
Right.
But I think we're unfortunately, I think that's the great comparison year right now, where 2009, great defense, horrible offense. I don't know if anybody else is noticing a pattern, but that seems to be where we're at right now. But I'll open it up for you guys for defense, because I don't have anything really else much to add.
There was, if I had to really nitpick, about the defense, it would be the second string defense giving up that last drive that made Northern Illinois get over 100 total yards in offense, which that's
that is such a nitpick.
nitpicking because if you take that away, your first string defense held Northern Illinois under 100 total yards, which was, that's like almost Madden NCAA type numbers that you crank your sliders up to 99 and you run your defense against another Group 5 team like that. So it was really good to see, like Nate said earlier, that it was one of those stress-free games because that every time the defense came out that they were going to do what they were going to do, and they weren't going to give up a back-breaking, big long play that usually hurts us, or a stupid personal foul on a 3rd and 20 that gets them the automatic first down. There was one questionable PI call, which you can look at it either way, but a couple of plays later, we got a called in return for us, so it went both ways. But
as I watched that pass interference back again today, just to refresh my brain, I was like, I could see it.
I could see it
turn
too.
His head.
Right.
I was like,
that's probably
yeah.
why they called it.
That one was just one of those like real close. Like today they would have called it, tomorrow they won't, kind of thing.
Right, and that's that's nitpicking of what they did wrong, but they forced 3 sacks again. I mean, not 8 like they got Colorado. So a downgrade if you really want to pick at it. But,
as someone's clearly doing,
gets them up to 14 total on the season. They're still top 5 in sacks, team sacks on the year within the country. So, and like we had talked about, I think their rush defense was, again, at least, I don't even know what I said earlier. Number 2 on rush defense. So just a baller of a defense, if you want to call it that. I'm looking at the passing defense right now, and I'm sure that's going to be a little skewed because Shedeur passed all over us, but that is what it is. But my prediction of the defense or special teams touchdown almost came true. We had a nice push on the turnover battle this week, and we weren't in the negative this time of losing that turnover battle. So nice to see that the defense was able to get some sort of a turnover. And I think as I just kept watching the game go on and on, it just became more evident to me that, like, all right, one of them, like, something is going to happen where they're finally going to punch through and get a turnover at some point in this game, because you just felt like that just was going to keep momentum and just keep happening just for how quick they were getting pressure on the QB, that they're finally going to force him to make a mistake. And he did. And it was sitting in my south end zone seats as well. And that ball was coming towards me. It was like, oh, my prediction's going to come true. Like, he's going to score on this. And then he went out like 5 yards later. So I was like, okay, well, that's a little disappointing. But I mean, it's, you saw AJ Rollins get a lot of time up on the defensive line this game, which was good for that defensive line, just to get some new rotation in and get some new names in there that we haven't seen before. Javen Wright, who was the one who had the interception, I think he's going to be a big contributor as the season goes on. He's getting a lot more playing time and showing that he can hold his own with that. I guess the other injury news that did come out of that game, at least on the defensive side too, was Dwight Boodle is also going to be out for the season with another injury. So just another, we weren't lacking in terms of secondary depth, but it's just another name that you don't have for the rest of your season. And I'm still a little iffy on the secondary. We know our rush defense is really good, but I'm still a little iffy on. We know we had a lot of returning starters on the secondary side, and I'm still, especially on a team like that is going to pass the ball better than Northern Illinois, I'm still a little iffy on how they're still going to stack up. As we saw, like I had said last week, Colorado might be the best talented receivers we'll see all season. So maybe getting that one out of the way was good, but I'm still a little iffy on how the secondary is going to defend. Maybe just a little bit better passing team and better receivers going forward. So that's just something that I guess if I really, outside of sarcastically trying to nitpick, if that is one concern I do have on the defense, is seeing how that group does evolve. going forward, because our line has gotten a lot better. We know our linebackers are solid with Gifford, Heinrich, Reimer, and that crew. And Jamari Butler's coming into play, and all of them. So with that, yeah, there wasn't much more, like Zach said. Just defense balled out. They did what they needed to do. The first time I know I've seen online and everything is it was one of those games where you want your offense to score, but you wanted to see your defense come back out and ball and play because they were just that entertaining of a group to watch them just manhandle the line and just get to the quarterback and just create all sort of disruption and pressure and everything. So just like Zach said, little inklings of that 09 defense that's the group that you want to see on the field more often than not, just because they're that good and they're that entertaining to watch. We'll pass it to Nate there. Just your defensive thoughts and what Tony White has to do going forward.
Tony White gets to build a statue soon if he's not careful. But the defense has been great. It's the 3-5. I was a little hesitant coming in, the season. We hadn't really seen it outside of a TCU running it fairly successfully last year, and we were just kind of wondering if we had the right personnel for it and be able to execute it well. It's worked like magic. I mean, we've got the big guys up front. We've got Hutmaker, we got Ty Robinson, we got Cam Lenhart, all just dominating offensive lines. We got, our secondary. We got Luke Reimer. We got Henrich back now. We got Chief Borders, Gifford. It's all coming together, and it's fun to watch. And like I said, and like we've all said, everyone's rushing to the ball whenever they pass it or run it. It's not just one guy trying to make a tackle. You get one guy, actually wrapping up, and then you get 5 other guys jumping on top. And it's really fun to see, really fun to watch. And you can tell it's a really, really talented group and a really close group. And like you said, Andy, the only nitpicky thing I could really think of is just that the second team did give up a touchdown, because before that, like you said, the first team offense held them under 100 yards and a field goal, and the only reason they gave up a field goal was because of the fumble in our own territory.
Right.
And I can't remember off the top of my head exactly where we fumbled it, but it was, I want to say, within the 10-15 yard line.
It was within the 10-yard line. Yeah.
And our defense stepped up 3 and out, and with a little help, I think, from the turf monster. But
that was a really fun play, though.
Thank you, Rocky.
Best play of the whole game. Best play of the whole game. My take. Best play of the whole game. Our defense was so scary, we tripped him.
Yeah, they recovered it at the 6-yard line.
Okay. Yeah.
So
yeah. And I think I'm pretty sure I saw it was -8 yards on that drive for them. So which was probably attributed to the turf monster, but still, our defense didn't give up yards. They didn't give up a touchdown. They held them to 3. They held their own. It was a tough situation. They had just, gotten off the field, because if I remember right, the fumble was on second down.
Yeah,
I want to say. And so, I mean, they weren't off the field for that long, so they could have just as well been tired and been like, oh, well, we're at the 6, whatever. We'll give it up. Let's see what the offense can do, get our rest, and then go back at it. And they didn't. They stood up to it, and they were up to the fight, and that was really awesome to see. Again, it's Northern Illinois, so there is that to take into account. But even other turnovers we've had during the season, except the end of the Colorado game, just because I think we were a little demoralized there. But I mean, they've for the most part held their own, and it's the side of the ball we can count on. It's a group we can count on, and that's why they're going to be building the statue soon. So that's about all I got on defense. So Zach, I don't know if
I've got one last thought that I don't think, and maybe you guys did bring it up, I don't remember, but something else that this isn't even a nitpick, just something that I love to see is that we're able to open field tackle now. I know we brought up tackling, that we're, wrapping up and doing the tackling thing that you're supposed to do. But it's nice that I'll see, you'll see a play when our defense is out there and be like, oh, they'll try a screen play and it might gain a few yards, but if it is just one person that's at the ball, generally speaking, outside of maybe one or two real bad ones this year, missed open field tackles really haven't happened too much. And or I mean, if they have, it's one of those where it's like the guy's trying to tackle and he gets tripped up. Those types of things where it can be explained that it wasn't because of lack of effort, it was something else. Open field tackling in general has just been a huge upgrade this year. And it's just fun to watch. I mean, there's really not much else to say about it because they did their job.
Right. But yeah, I guess special teams didn't really do anything good, didn't do really anything bad.
Buschini had a pretty good day for what he did.
Buschini made up for the punts last week, so that was better.
An average. I think I saw his average on his punts was like 42 for each one of them.
Yeah,
which
he made up for last week.
Yep.
Tristan Alvano made his field goals. We didn't fumble a return. We didn't give up a big return or anything like that. So
I will maintain this probably throughout the rest of the year, but I still say that special teams defense is good, but I think special teams is our most improved, especially when in the last couple of years, special teams has been what's lost us games. So, and it's nice to watch a special teams play and be like, oh, like I'm not sitting on the edge of my seat waiting for something to happen.
And we'll see how Alvano goes throughout the season when, he's called on for a 30, 40, 50-yarder field goal attempt. I mean, he didn't have to worry about it Saturday to try to, exercise his demons from the 50-yarder that he missed at Colorado or anything like that. So, that'll be just a time will tell just to see if he still has it. I guess, he does have it. He's the kicker. But he's
looked solid in all of
it. And he's made his kicks. He's made the ones that he's had too. So just, is he going to be able to, when called upon in that big moment, get us the 3 points that we do need in certain game situations when they do happen. But yeah, special teams didn't really have anything bad to say, which it's always a good thing too.
I was to say, thank you. Thank you for not giving us too much to talk about. That's the worst part is like they deserve a lot more praise because they are doing stuff. They're doing well, but it's like, it's such a small portion of the game. Like, what else can you say?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what or who steps up in kick returns with Ramir being out. But that's about the only concern I have.
Wasn't Kemp doing most of the
work?
He
does punt return.
He does punt, yeah.
But I mean,
kick return. Sorry,
kick return. I don't remember who came in after Ramir. It was somebody else, but
yeah,
probably going to be one of the freshmen.
Yeah,
running backs.
It's going to have to be, especially if Rule says we're not fair catching the ball.
Or it could be. So. I'm just looking at the stats here. It could be this Barrett Liebentrit. Probably butchered that, but
we don't know how to say it either.
He had one kick return, but it was for no yards. So I don't know if he just got smoked when he got the ball or what, but anyway, we can move on.
Yeah, so before we get into Louisiana Tech preview, just lightly touch on just the college football world. I think that we need to talk about is the Deion show, obviously not going away anytime soon. I think it's really funny that the Pac-12 has like the most ranked teams it's had in a while, and it's going to die next year.
They have by far the most they're like some of the best quarterbacks in the league right now.
They have the best potential for the playoff, and then they're going to die next year. So
I think that's classic Pac-12 for them to just cannibalize themselves, not have anyone make the playoff. So,
and I know I was one of the ones that watched the Colorado State game Saturday night, and I saw that they came out with the TV viewership numbers that it averaged about 9.3 million when the average Pac-12 After Dark game averaged about 1.1 to 2 million viewers, which really rude of Colorado to impede on our turf and our territory of being the sickos that watch the Pac-12 After Dark games religiously, because that's our sacred territory that we need to keep. Because soon it is going to be Big Ten After Dark, and then I will actually be invested in those games, not for fun.
Speaking of Colorado State, though, can we just talk about the fact that Colorado State didn't go for 2?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
they
They
had
had the chance to just be like,
multiple
On our
times.
own terms. Yep.
Yes, that whole second half they had outside of just going for two, they had multiple chances to put away that game and win it and go up by 2 or 3 more scores. And it was either just a lack of offense or just I think they had a turnover there or something like that. I have to go back and look, but they had plenty of ample opportunities to win that game, and they Nebraska themselves as well, which not a good term you want to be associated with either.
I think we are finally starting to see the cracks in the armor
It's
of the
yeah.
Dion of the fighting Dions, though, because because Colorado State. Well, and then the other thing, and I know there's been a lot of debate about this, but like they stormed the field after they beat Colorado State. I understand they were terrible last year, but it's like after us and after Colorado State, like
Yeah.
I guess, but like what?
Yeah, that was it's you can say what you want to say about it. I mean, I get it from the stance that like it was a rivalry game and you just beat your rival in double overtime. When you also look at it as they were 20-point favorites, 23 or whatever it was on your home field at night. So probably, not if you look at it from that sense, probably not worthy of a storm in the field. But like you said, Zach, they were awful last year, 1-11, and to start off 3-0 when most of the sports books out there had their over under on wins 3.5 this year. So the fact that they're already pushing that number, they only need one more to hit that over essentially for everybody this year. So,
and to be fair to Colorado, it is impressive what they're doing. With I mean, now it'd be great if Nebraska could have done that too, but two totally different rebuilds.
Yes.
We've talked about that, but it is impressive. But
yeah.
I think they're going to finally start seeing.
And they have their
the
two toughest tests
competition.
next of Oregon and USC.
Yeah.
I mean, now you get into the grind of conference play and your Pac-12 schedule. One last time for the Pac-12, but hell of a season for them to go out onto at the same time. But I guess another point, Alabama, I am worried that they are not going to be as good, and I think Saban is on the decline now.
You're worried about that? Alabama has been good for so many years. I think it's finally time that we can say, hey,
that Saban kicks it.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Gotta be careful what we say there, but like, I mean, granted, we're just trading Alabama for just Georgia taking over for them right now, anyway.
Yep.
So it's like whatever. But
I'm
okay. I'm okay with that. If Alabama is suddenly going to start self imploding, let's bring more chaos back into college football. Exactly. Why not?
The Big Ten has not looked overly impressive outside of obviously your 3 East teams, but especially the Big Ten West has not looked as good as I thought it was really going to. I thought Illinois was going to be a lot better than they were, and they are not. Iowa's Iowa, and that's just what we knew we were going to get from them.
I'm just hoping that for Nebraska's sake, after the Louisiana Tech game, that since we have Michigan, I'm not already writing off the Michigan game because we almost beat them under Frost's first year. So I mean, nothing's impossible. But if Michigan comes in and plays like they probably will, and we lose, I'm hoping that the team is still able to get over that hump. And because like we've all said, the Big Ten West is open. Now, does that mean we'll win it? No, but we have a legit shot to be at least better than we've been in the Big Ten in the past 5 years.
And that's I'm like you said, I'm interested in that Michigan game for the sense of the defense. That the defense saw what a talented like Colorado offense looks like, and they saw what a running Minnesota's not as good as we thought so either. Again, probably should have beaten them and beat that game, but Michigan is going to be your team that comes in here that is well oiled in all 3 phases of the game on offense, defense, special teams. So a chance for the defense to actually see what a well oiled offense is going to look like against the 3-3-5 defense that we do have. I'm really intrigued to see how that battle is going to go, because it's going to be probably their toughest test the rest of the season of offenses that they'll face. And so, can you go in there and kind of keep Michigan in check, or is it going to be like what Oklahoma was last year, where it was close for a drive and then the rest of the game was a blowout? Now, granted, our defense, was not that fantastic. That was the game that Schneider got fired after too. But it's interesting to see what that defense is going to look like against Michigan, and we'll talk about that more next week after we see what happens Saturday. But that's the rest of the schedule.
That'll be the true first test, I think, for the defense, though.
Yeah, and that's how. That's probably what Rule wants too. Is you want to be put against the best of the best and see how you stack up against them. And like I'd said with the national broadcast TV games in Minnesota and Colorado, is we lost those games, but those are the games you want to be playing in weekly. Is you want to be put on the prime stage because you're drawing attention, your team is good, and you're drawing all these fans to come watch you play good football. Now, those games were not good football on our end, but but in a sense, that's what you want to work towards and what you want to build towards as a program. And that's what Rule just has to tell us guys, is these are the games that you want to play. These are, that 3-9 season is, Nebraska got up for the helmet games, essentially, is you played all those bigger, tougher teams a lot closer than everybody thought. So, you start there and then you just consistently build until you get the belief that you can go in and beat anybody that you want to. And that's ultimately what every coach wants. But you get that sense from Rule, is that's what he is building towards, is you're going to walk into any stadium knowing that you're going to confidently win no matter who you're playing.
I think it's also going to help Nebraska, though, too, because we don't travel for 2 more weeks. So we play Louisiana Tech at home, we play Michigan at home, and then we finally travel. And I think even somewhere in there is a bye week.
Yeah. You got the last 6 of your last 9 games. Nice, by the way. Are going to be at home. So that's okay. The joke is there.
Come on.
It's there. You have to say it.
Cannot take it.
You're obligated to say it.
Fine.
But your next 6 games are at home. The rest of not your next 6 games, but
that'd be all right.
Yeah, no doubt. Although you end the season on a 3 away game stand, so who knows about that point? But
just get 6 wins in a row, bowl eligible. Boom, you're good.
You get a lot of you. Yeah, that would be really nice. But like I said, you get a lot more home games going the rest of your way, and that's just a lot more confidence that you have coming home, knowing you're going to play in front of your crowd. You're going to get things that are going to go your way. So you really have to take advantages of those games. And then, the Illinois game scared me from the start. Now that they don't look as good, who knows? But it's still going to be, how are they going to come back after the Michigan game? If the Michigan game goes poorly, you get 1 extra day less, and you're playing on a Friday night in Champaign. So are the guys, if that happens, are they going to be able to respond? Are they going to be able to kind of brush that off and get ready on a shorter week type game plan? So that stretch of games is going to be really crucial to see how the psyche of this team is, depending on how the Michigan game goes, and are they able to punch back and go out? But unless you guys have any other points, can kind of dive into Louisiana.
We kind of failed Matt Rule already by already talking about the Michigan game when it was supposed to go 1-0 this week.
Yep.
So we should probably actually talk about the game that we're going to be playing this week.
Yeah. So Louisiana Tech, our next opponent, 2:30 on BTN this Saturday, at home again. Again, the biggest thing that we're going to hear about the rest of this week is who is going to be starting at quarterback. And like we had mentioned before, is at least my gut feeling is Sims is probably still going to start if he is healthy enough to start. And I kind of agree with your point, Nate. We might see a 50-50 split where, depending on how Sims does in the first half, if it's going well enough, you might see Harburg in the second half. And then you take into the account of, okay, now with that game plan is how much are you going to be running the ball with your running back room of just Anthony Grant? Are you going to be, again, working your quarterbacks in that run game, so you're kind of splitting the shares with Grant, or are you trying to get those younger backups involved? And I think Rule said that Emmett Johnson and
Quentin Ives.
Yeah, Quentin Ives. Yeah, Keanu. Or not even close. But yeah, Quentin Ives and Emmett Johnson are going to be your next guys up behind Grant. So, guys, I've heard Emmett Johnson's name thrown around before. I think he was either last year under Frost or just Rule saying it this year. So it's another guy to watch. But it's your time to sign and shine and stand up and take control of trying to make your spot on a permanent roster rotation for the running back room. So hopefully those guys embrace it, but we're going to see how they are. And for me, it's always a little iffy unless you have a really talented freshman running back or sophomore running back. Is the Big Ten is just a bruising running back league. So it's going to be interesting to see like these younger guys that aren't built up yet to be like a Gabe Ervin type running back where you're just a bruiser. How are they going to style against a conference play going forward here? So that, and then I'm still interested with the wide receiver room because Fedoni led last week with receptions. So do you try to get your receivers more involved? Do you try to get Washington the ball? Do you try to get Kemp the ball more? But I don't know how much they're going to pass either, depending on which quarterback gets rolled out there. So those are just a lot of unknowns on the offense. Again, going into this game of last week, like we didn't know who was going to start a quarterback. Well, we still don't know who's going to start a quarterback again. And now that we have the running back room in question, but I'll just toss it to you guys and just kind of go around of what we want to see. I don't even know if I really said what I wanted to see yet, but I think I'll come back to it.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. Louisiana Tech looks like they're a fairly pass-happy team. It's just looking at their quarterback. He's 750 yards, 5 touchdowns, 106 pass attempts. So they'll probably be trying to air it out a little more. I can't imagine our defense should have too much of an issue, but it'll be interesting to see kind of how they come out against more of a pass-happy team like that. If we can maybe force some more turnovers, just keeps pressure on the quarterback. So it'll be interesting to just make sure that the defense trots out there, the defense that we've been seeing, not really getting complacent and doing what we did. Looking forward to the Michigan game. So as long as they show up, I think that'll be a good step there. And then, yeah, it'll be something to see who trots out there as quarterback. I think
I'm really interested in the stadium's reaction of if Sims gets announced. Are you going to hear boos? Are you going to hear murmurs? Because when Harbaugh got announced last week, I mean, it was like an electric yell. Like you would have thought like Nebraska scored a touchdown just based off the reaction. So if that does happen, if Sims gets announced, I'm like, how is the fan base going to take that? How is that stadium? Are they going to be supportive? They're going to be like, okay, what does Rule do? And like, why are you trotting out a guy that has proven that he's already made mistakes versus the guy that didn't make a mistake last week?
I will say that I hope they support him because it has been 2 games for Jeff Sims. And no offense to you, Louisiana Tech, but it is against Louisiana Tech. So I think if you were to give him a chance, you might as well trot him out against Louisiana Tech and see what happens. Like I said, I'll full support whoever Rule thinks is the best fit to go out there and start that game. And I trust him to make whatever decisions are necessary if things go south or aren't quite living up to expectations. So. Other than that, I agree with you, Andy. I'm really interested to see if we try and get our receivers and tight ends more involved this next week, especially with all the injuries in our running game, and ideally not wanting to run our quarterbacks into the ground either. So maybe trying to work sure hands Billy Kemp. I don't know. he's losing favor with me. I really hope he can turn things around here, but Fedoni, keep him involved, keep feeding him as much as we can. I think, for sure. I mean, like you said, our tight ends are top notch. We might as well be utilizing them as much as we can.
Get them involved.
Yep, and Marcus Washington, he's shown last year. He showed flashes. He's shown this year. He can be kind of that bigger play type receiver when we need him. So I think we just need to utilize our guys and make the most of what we can. And like I said, don't look forward to Michigan. I'm not afraid of too afraid of Louisiana Tech, but just take care of business, show up on Saturday, do what you need to do, and then you can worry about the Goliath coming in the Saturday after. But I'll go ahead and
the wide receiver point. One other thought I had is if we don't have like I said last week, a Trey Palmer speed threat or a Samari Toure. So if that is like, if we are going to take a deep shot down the field, I think last week Tommy Hill was the one that, Harbug just missed slightly. So like, is he going to be your speed threat guy? Or are you going to try to get Billy Kemp on a fake juke route to hopefully break open and get free? Because he has speed, but he's not tall enough to be, trying to go up and Randy Moss somebody over the air either. So
not with that attitude.
Well, you're right. Also with that. But I'd be interested to see if they do any sort of like play action deep threat or just any sort of deep threat vertical that's not Fedoni. I mean, who's going to be that receiver that the quarterback's target? Who's going to be fast enough to be able to break that? And, Tommy Hill was the only one last week that did get that opportunity. So it's going to be interesting to see if he is the one that keep trotting out there for that vertical threat, or are they going to trust their other receivers, Bullock, Washington, Kemp, to be able to do that for them. But Zach, we'll get it to you there. If you have any key points, or we just go, you already have the question ready.
I mean, you guys kind of hit on the major ones. For me, Nate already said it. It's take care of business. I kind of want to see a repeat of the Northern Illinois game where Nebraska came in and you never felt like the game was totally out of the control of the Huskers. There were times where, it might have been a little bit nervous, but once the defense kind of came back, especially after that fumble, once the fumble happened, you're kind of like, oh crap, here we go. We're already self-imploding. And then the defense held. It's like, okay, maybe not. And then the team just took off from there. Do it again. Do the same thing again, maybe without the fumble, please.
I was just going to say without the blown block coverage fumble.
but play the game again that you just played, because I think obviously there's a formula there. And then the other one would be, it's kind of more based on who starts at quarterback. But for me, it's if Jeff Sims starts, it's, forget the previous games, do what you need to do to prove that you're good enough to be a starter, as in take care of the ball, take care of the basics, go out and play football. But if Harburg starts, then clean up what can be cleaned up. So, if he's starting, hopefully this week he's been taking reps with the ones to, dial in his passing a bit and maybe, get some better reads. The other thing that I know we didn't really touch on, but I was really impressed with, that I would like to see if Harbaugh does get the start, is keep working on his ball fakes, because there were times where I was surprised at how well he sold those. I was like, wow, like this, like he's good at that. I mean, he's got a lot of talent there. It just needs honed. And I think he'd be a really good quarterback.
And that's what makes a great read option quarterback, is your ability to sell that fake and sell that ball. And that maybe that's something that Jeff Sims was lacking right now, is, he's fumbling snaps. So if he's doing that, are you able to trust him to hang onto the ball as he's trying to do a read option and either pull the ball out of the running back's gut and keep it, or, everything like that. So yes, I mean, I do agree with that, is Heinrich was able to sell that very well. Now, do you trust Jeff Sims to do that and not fumble the ball at the same time, where he's already had issues with that already?
And that's the other thing too, is just trust, just trust your team. If Sims is the starter, trust your team to do what they're going to do. And then you do what you need to do and keep a hold of the ball. Just keep a hold of the ball. That is mainly it. Now, if he's able to hold on to the ball, then part 2 of that is move the ball, run the offense, run the offense. And the worst part is this kind of goes back to, what we've been trying to figure out for the last 3 weeks now is, a lot of people are blaming Satterfield for a terribly run offense. It's like, well, you can't really run an offense if your quarterback is gonna fumble the ball or not be able to hang onto it. Holy smokes! But like we kind of proved with Heinrich Harburg in there, that it works. And granted, I think our offense was pretty vanilla. I don't think we needed to show anything fancy. And I would venture to say that should happen here too. I think, keep it simple. Don't overthink it. Don't go crazy. I know you guys were saying throw Jeff Sims in there at running back or do a dual quarterback system.
It could happen.
It could happen. I don't know if I would do it in this game just because it might show our hand a bit early for the Big Ten teams. But hey, maybe.
It could.
Maybe. That might be good practice. But
Make them stop.
I will say, if it does happen, I will absolutely support it because I'm sure
if it happens and it works well.
That's a good point. Well, okay, if it happens and it works well more than once.
More than once.
If it works well one time, then it's like, all right, is that a fluke? Is that a real thing? Who knows? But I suppose then with that, we can just move on over to our predictions.
So I already got mine lined up. 38-14 Nebraska. Cover the spread. Hit that over. 38-14. Cover that spread. Hit the over. Cash it. Straight money.
Nate, are you still thinking? Because I've got mine lined up too.
Yeah, go for it. I have an idea, but
well, so Andy and I are on the same page. Andy and I are on the same page because I said 14 Louisiana Tech, but I think we're gonna see
42
more offense. Yep, I said 42.
Ooh, all right.
So I think we're gonna see some more offense this week. I think we're gonna see our offense take a step forward. Now,
all right.
Again, I know the whole thing's going to be it's Louisiana Tech.
You play your opponent. You play the team in front of you.
It's a confidence booster, and that's what I want to see. I want to see a high-scoring game from the Huskers. 42-14, Nebraska.
Okay.
I like it. I still don't trust our offense.
No, drink the Roulette. Come on.
I trust them enough to win. I'm not going on the Louisiana Tech train. Don't you worry. But I think our defense steps up a little more. I'm gonna go 31-7. I think they'll hold them to a touchdown. I know Louisiana Tech's a higher flying theoretically offense. Like I said, they're 800 yards passing, nearly 200, almost 300 on the ground. But I think our defense keeps the intensity going, and I think the offense scores more than the 21 that I was predicting last week. So
yes,
we'll up it by 10. We'll go incrementally here. We'll go to 31-7. So I think it'll be another game where things feel rather in control.
So you're doing analytic instead of just chugging the Roulade.
This is a whole new.
My AI algorithm says.
Yeah. This is a whole new Nate from last year. Nate was by far the biggest optimist out of the three of us, and this year he's like, analytics show, and then you've lost me. It's like, nope, I don't want that smart talk in here.
Scott Frost broke me last year.
He broke a lot of us.
I think he broke it. Yeah, I was going to say, I think many of us were broken.
But with that, Zach, do we have an award to give out? We sure have an award to give out.
We always have an award to give out. Now, I shouldn't say unfortunately, because after wins, it's so hard to really justify this, but we have to keep it honest. So I will start with mine, and we'll see if we agree or disagree, because this might be where we have to have some deliberation. But for me, it's not one person. It's not. It's a unit, and I'm saying the offensive line. They looked a little shaky still, so hopefully they can iron that out. But I want to send them in a shuttle to the sun.
I also concur with that. Of more specifically, just the Bryce Benhart play of. Dude completely missed this block, let his quarterback get lit up, caused the fumble, so on and so forth. And if we all remember last year during the Illinois field goal attempt that he just did nothing, still triggers Zach a little bit.
I will say, and I know we've talked about this, I was going to say him too. I would like to point that out. But after that play, when you go back and watch it, I know we talked about it. But that was a miscommunication error, which does still warrant being fired into the sun. But he came back and redeemed himself and helped us get a couple scores. So I didn't want to say Bryce Benhart specifically, just because I think he knew he goofed up and he fixed it. I was fine with that. Still, the offensive line, I think, is the unit that's going for me still.
Yeah, I would agree.
As the tiebreaker, the official tiebreaker here, I will have to side with Andy.
You're killing me.
I'm
Y'all are
sorry.
killing me.
me.
Y'all are killing me.
I've seen too many bloopers of Bryce Benhart to not fire him into the sun.
Bloopers.
I don't think we've specifically
bloopers is a nice term to use.
Bloopers is good.
I don't think we specifically fired him into the sun yet, and I feel like it might, just light a fire under him. That's my hope for it.
I mean, technically, I think we can. I don't know. Granted, it depends on how.
I have to go back and
listen
listen to the tape. We might have done it during that Illinois game too.
I think when we fired Anthony Grant into the sun, seems like he's taken it to heart. So maybe
it's a reverse
maybe there's
jinx?
something here. So I guess, unfortunately, we're not all in agreement, not in agreement here. But I guess Bryce Benhart on the offensive line is getting fired into the sun.
Component of the line. So
welcome to your personal space shuttle, buddy.
Technically,
I was just trying to say, that was
be inclusive instead of singling out a single person.
Correct. Correct. But well, then following that up, we also have trivia.
Mm-hmm.
And let me double check.
Say you got the question in front of you.
I'll ask the question, and then I'll make sure that we don't have. I mean, I know we have a winner, but I need to make sure that I didn't miss anything else.
As I say, who won last week?
Chris won last week.
Oh, of course he did. Again, he's getting a lead on everybody.
Okay, so this week for the trivia question, which I will have again on the bottom of the video if you watch on YouTube. Otherwise, just it's here.
Figure it out.
Otherwise, your listening ears.
Since we're playing Louisiana Tech this weekend, the question revolves around them and Nebraska, and it is, what was the last year that Nebraska played against Louisiana Tech? And then the bonus question for that is, who was the head coach at the time that we played Louisiana Tech? So last year that Nebraska played Louisiana Tech, and who the head coach was, both for a point. So, and then for the winner, we already announced it. Yes. So Chris is now won twice. So he got the answer correct last week, which was, who was the quarterback when Nebraska last played Northern Illinois? And what was the score of that game? Do we remember?
The quarterback was, yes, I remember both. So the score was a nice 17-21 game. Fun fact, I was in the stadium for that game. Not a fun game to be at. And the quarterback who threw 3 interceptions that game was none other than our dear friend Tanner Lee.
Oh, that's right.
The whole year with Mike Riley. What a fun year.
I even had the hottest of takes with Tanner Lee. I was like, man, he could probably be at least a semi-decent quarterback if he had a good quarterback coach. And boy, I think I was wrong.
Yeah, he went to the NFL.
He did. He sure did. He was on the Cowboys for a little bit.
Anyway, just as a last repeat, what was the last for this week? What was the last year that Nebraska played against Louisiana Tech? And then who was the head coach of the Huskers at that time? To answer, we have a form in all of the social media things. I need to fix it, but I will have it fixed for this week if you're wanting to fill it out. There we have a form you can fill out on all the social media platforms, and then there's also our email if you want to send us an email, which I should probably check that if so, that's how somebody's been.
What if we have other responses?
It shows up on my phone, but I haven't gotten anything. But maybe it got disconnected. So if that's the case, we'll do
system.
If that's the case, we'll do stat corrections next week. And then so you can go on to our social media or our all the descriptions of the episodes, and you'll be able to find the form in there. And that is it. I think I don't have anything else to add. Do you guys have anything?
Yeah. Nate, you got any final thoughts there?
Go Big Reds, Skurs by 90, hopefully by 24 in a 31-17 or 7 game.
Ugh.
But
No, it's always by
that's
90.
that's about all I got. I'll be crafting a nice batch of roulade here in the next couple days, and I'll be starting some chugging probably by Friday afternoon. So hope you all are ready.
Per usual of the Husker weeks go. But yeah, Zach, if you have any other final thoughts there, we'll wrap it up. And yeah, as always, go Big Red, Skurs by 90. And if it's a possibility, it's a Nebraskability.